Hello and welcome to the Who's Friend Jimmy podcast with your friend Jimmy, Jamie, me. Um, Today I wanted to talk about something that I am very, very much interested in. Um, it's almost like a topic that if I'm like completely bored and all out of things to do and I want to just kind of learn something, it is what I can just put on and start listening to, which is economics and money. And um, uh, some people, I don't know, I've gotten into trouble from friends shouting at me, telling me it's all I think about, all I talk about is money. But I am deeply interested in one, what life. One of my biggest thoughts is that um, what would I actually do with my time if money wasn't in the question? Like, if I had enough money to not care, would I even still be making my music? Or do I see it as kind of the best way for me to make money? Um, I've been dealing with this thought a lot, and I almost feel like the only way to answer that question is to have enough money to be able to be like, okay, do I still want to do this? And obviously, I have a strong feeling I'll still want to do it. It's fun, it's creative, and I think it would be something I'd enjoy doing. But um, it kind of started with COVID, and maybe there's a term called being orange pilled, which is when you learn what Bitcoin is. For a lot of people, um, it opens your eyes because people are like, oh, what is this Bitcoin thing? And when you start looking into it, people are like, oh, the benefits of Bitcoin is that um, like there's a limited supply of it, um, and that no one can make more. And then you start realizing, wait, so our money, you can make more? It's like, yeah, they can print it. They print, like, money's printed. It's um, put into circulation, and it's like, wait, they can print it, and we work so hard for it. And then you realize that, oh yeah, things get more expensive over time. That's just natural. That's just how stuff is. And you go, wait, but surely, it's just a rabbit hole that you start getting into, and you start realizing that the system we are in at the moment is not normal, and or it is normal because it's been happening for thousands of years. But this is the part where in history where the people are being lied to and things are going terribly wrong, and it's just like a crazy realization to have. And then it's kind of come at a perfect time when we have these crises, and crises is just the word they put on it. It's just this propaganda word, but um, we've had these crises, and they're like, oh, we need to inject money and create all this new money um, to fix all these problems. And then you realize things are getting more expensive, but they're getting more expensive quicker. And then just realize that um, fiat currency and the way that things are working is just wrong. And then you start learning the history of it, and it's a very frustrating journey. I invite you along because I have a strong feeling the next couple years are gonna be all about this. But um, this fiat paper money system that we're using has been tested over and over throughout the centuries in China and Germany and all these different things, um, and it's been tried before, and it's just wrong. It just doesn't work, and it's Um, for example, the current system we had for the last um, couple hundred years before around. Well, it's different for different countries, which is the hard thing because Australia has never had a good currency where I'm from, but America and England and Germany all had a strong currency that was backed by gold. And the reason gold works is because no person has the means to produce more gold besides having to get it out the ground. So uh, there is a sacrifice that has to be um, paid to create more of this currency, which allows the supply to remain at like a pretty normal level. But when you detach the supply restraints to be able to just print paper, then if you know economics, it's supply and demand. So if the supply of currency is dramatically increased, then the demand for goods also increases, which makes things more expensive. It's pretty much just like, yeah, if you are you have a cake and you cut it into smaller and smaller pieces, people aren't getting more cake, they're just getting smaller amounts. So people talk about how buying property and houses is a good investment, and S&P 500 and all these things. These are just assets that have a restraint on supply. So your house isn't getting more valuable. It's the value of the currency, the money in your bank is going down in value. And the more you learn, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Because if you think about it, when you save money in your bank, you're holding it there. When they print more money, it is devaluing your savings. So for the last 100 years, one establishment, which is the Federal Reserve Bank, has been able, or the banks, have been able to steal the work of 100 years of generations of people, being able to steal all their savings. Like, it's been devalued by like 99%. So they've literally been, I don't know if YouTube will ban this, to be honest, I've never really talked about this, but that's 100 years of literally having slaves that don't know they're slaves and working. And it's literally like paying your slaves in paper, to do work with monopoly money that then you can print and just, it's a terrible system, and we've been stolen. But the biggest thing I have at the moment is that people are attacking the wrong people. Everything's fucked up because of the currency, because the money changes and they know who they are. Have somehow they convinced the whole world to move into this currency. There's a book called I think it's the Fiat Standard, where the guy, he makes a point which makes sense. So one of the reasons that we had to move away from gold is gold has a terrible saleability, which means that you can't send it across countries quickly. You have to put it on a ship or an airplane or something. So in the age of communications, once we invented things like radio and telegraphs and whatever, we could then expand commerce quickly between countries. But you can't really buy something and then have to wait like 3 weeks for the gold payment to arrive. And so then you would have like kind of like a ledger where I would keep track of how much you owe me and then how much you owe, and then like you would ship over maybe big amounts instead of little smaller transactions. So we had to move away from that, but the system we moved into is just, it's been corrupted and it's fucked. And people are blaming businessmen and billionaires, and people think if you're a billionaire you're stealing everyone's money, but we've got it all completely wrong. It's the banks and the government, but I believe the government has been taken over by the banks. um, and if you don't believe me, just think how Trump is trying to fire Jerome Powell, um, and he can't because the president doesn't have any control over the Fed chair. So, um, but lucky, I always get angry at the previous generation for like, how could you let this happen? How could you live for your whole life thinking that things just get expensive over time? That's just the way nature goes. But then I realized that one of the reasons um, our generation is so lucky is that we've been freed because of the internet and the expansion of these like alternative forms of media. So for the last 100 years, most people would got their information from like newspapers and books and whatever, and they were corrupted by, they were owned by the big corporation. They were pretty much, yeah, they were lost to the hands of the baddies. So, and then the news sources and the radios at the same time. And then finally, we've kind of just made it out the other end where Google and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter got into a pretty dark place, and the hands of control were close, but luckily King Elon and TikTok was actually one of the biggest ones that freed up the information. But yeah, so like your best like hedge against the inflation of these shitty fiat currencies was gold, but they even made gold illegal to own in America in like the 60s. So it would have been pretty hard to kind of navigate that world. But luckily for us, we have the best tech, and I believe that technology is its main purpose is to free individuals from, I don't know, the corruption of, you'd say government, but I would say it's the corruption of the crowd, because the government is just the crowd putting their power into the wrong place. But yeah, pretty much like the deeper you go into the economics of everything, socialism, and the way the kind of world is going, it's very dark and it's hard to see a way out the other end. Like Australia, where I live, is going the wrong way. Like, we've got all the things that I've been warned about in all my books, and we're heading towards that totalitarian, terrorism, whatever, state where we've got government schools, government healthcare, government insurance, government housing, and these are all, if you know the Austrians, they talk about how government should not have any means of production, and when the government controls the means of production, that's when things go wrong. Um, I'll go into this kind of stuff more, but pretty much the government's only role when it was created um, is to make sure that people are following the pre-written rules. So we've got the Constitution, which are these are the rules we've established for our country. These are the rules you have to abide by based off of moral principles. And the government's role is if one person goes against the rules to another person, so steals their private property or uh, like, I don't know, goes against their rights, then the government's role is to punish that person. But when government starts making houses and making schools, and we think that this stuff is normal, but government schools, government housing, government insurance, government healthcare, these are not supposed to exist. And these actually make those existing businesses worse, and they make them not function properly. So everyone says that, oh, we need government insurance because the insurance is too so bad and doesn't help I don't know, poor people or people who don't have enough money. But the reason that insurance doesn't work properly is because the government destroys the free market, and it destroys the system. So if there wasn't free government healthcare, then there would be budget healthcares. There would be cheap ones that are you don't give you as much as the other ones, but they can't compete against the government's free version, so they can't exist. Why would people go pay for a cheap one when they can just get one for free? So it ruins, and that happens for, imagine any like government insurance, government schools. There would be budget private schools, and they would work and they'd function well. They obviously wouldn't be the best because they're cheaper, but that's how it works. But they can't. That doesn't exist now because the the free version just ruins the whole system. But yeah, I really like talking about this stuff, but I'm also scared I'm gonna get cancelled. But I think that standing up for what you believe in and talking about this stuff is kind of the only way to fix it. But on that end note, there is, so pretty much because all these systems are fucked, there inflation is gonna keep happening, and it's gonna keep happening because as these systems start failing, which they will, government schools, government healthcare, all these things, because they're run terribly, because there's no CEO, it's other people's money. It's not, they have no ties in doing it well. These are all gonna fail, and the only way they're kept up and kept going is by printing more money to keep it going. So it's inevitable. They're gonna keep printing. Things are gonna keep getting more expensive. Well, actually, no. Your money's just gonna keep going down in value. So you have to put your money somewhere else. People choose houses, but I think that's a bad idea. And it's kind of just old technology, saving your money in a house. And houses have inflation. They make more houses, so it's not actually a very good store of value. And it's hard to buy. You can't buy a house. You have to loan money to buy a house, which is another problem, which is leveraging up the housing, which is why it's so expensive. But yeah, the only solution that I can come up with, like everything is going wrong, everything's going to get worse, nothing's going to get any better. The only solution is to buy more Bitcoin, because imagine Bitcoin is that house. So people buy a house because they want to save the money there and they want to keep that value. Think of Bitcoin as a house in the metaverse that you can store your wealth there instead, and it's safe, and no one can print more of it. I'll get more into that into future stuff, but yeah, that's today's video. Hello and welcome to the